EC3 to Ring of Honor. Looks like this is a possibility. It's something that's been reported over the last couple of days. Now, I must give some credit. I don't have out of my hands at the moment, but I know that when we spoke about EC3 potentially going to Ring of Honor and Impact Wrestling, I believe it was last month prior to Slammiversary, when he did the Control Your Narrative vignettes on social media, and he did one about AEW, and he also did one about Ring of Honor, and we'll touch on that in a second. But there was a comment on one of my videos that actually said he could potentially go to both Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor. And at the time, in fairness to myself, I said, I don't know, that might be a bit unlikely due to the situation about TV tapings. Obviously, Ring of Honor hadn't done, or at this moment, they will do soon, but at the time, hadn't done any television tapings since March. So I said, I don't know, it might be a bit unlikely. But whoever you are, maybe you'll throw a comment on this video too. Well done, you are absolutely correct, because it looks like EC3, in addition to being with Impact Wrestling, is going to be with Ring of Honor too. Now, Ring of Honor's return to television production will include the debut of the wrestler, EC3, that was part of WWE releases in April due to the COVID pandemic causing budget restrictions. PW Insider reported yesterday that former TNA World Heavyweight Champion EC3 Ethan Carter III is in Baltimore and will make his Ring of Honor debut at this week's TV tapings. Now, this report has since been confirmed by the likes of Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer newsletter. It's also been confirmed by the likes of WrestleZone. So multiple credible outlets are suggesting that this is the case. Now, as I just mentioned, back in June, prior to Slammiversary and prior to EC3 making his return to Impact Wrestling, EC3 at the time was doing lots of these social media vignettes. Now, they were all essentially the same thing about like he's done on Impact Wrestling Television recently, and like he's been talking about since he was released by WWE. It was all about control your narrative, trying to erase the past. If by erasing the past you can control your future, etc., etc. So he did a video on AEW, which turned a lot of people's heads, got a lot of people's attention. When he did the one about AEW, he did a lot of AEW puns. About Inner Circle, The Khan, Alpha and Omega, etc., etc. So he did that about AEW, and at the time, a lot of people thought, whoa, is he going to go to AEW? At the time, I speculated that I thought this was just about getting attention and getting people talking, which it looks like that was the case. But the interesting thing here is that he also did one on Ring of Honor too. In it, he spoke about there's no honor in what we do. That was the main sort of theme in it. There's no honor in what we do. We've lost the honor in professional wrestling. And then at the end, just as in the AEW vignette, he clicked his fingers, and then we saw a AEW logo. In this one, he clicked his fingers, and we saw a Ring of Honor logo. And then again, at the time, a lot of people thought, oh, is he going to go to Ring of Honor? And at the time, I thought that, again, he was doing this about a lot of promotion. So I thought, oh, this is just him, stirring the pot. He's just been released by WWE. His name is out there. He wants to get people talking about him. He wants to make himself the most valuable commodity possible. And how do you do that? You get people talking about you. You get your name in all the news and the media. So I thought that's just what it was. But it looks like there is more to it, because instead, he teased a run with the promotion there, and the news is coming out that he's going to be at the Ring of Honor television tapings this week and will make his debut whenever they air. Now, EC3 also made his return to Impact Wrestling via a video package that aired at the end of Slammiversary last month. This past week on Impact Emergence, after Moose defended the TNA World Heavyweight Championship against Trey Miguel, EC3 once again, he's done this a couple of times since, prior to this rather, EC3 attacked Moose, the self-proclaimed TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and then stole the TNA World Heavyweight Championship belt. We know that Moose is going to have a match with EC3 at some point. I thought it was going to happen at Impact Emergence. It hasn't. We don't know what's going to happen next week, but it looks like we could have a Moose versus EC3 match potentially at Bound for Glory 2. This does raise the question, if EC3 does make his debut of Ring of Honor at these television tapings, is he going to have the TNA World Heavyweight Championship with him at the time? That's an interesting thing to consider. Now, Ring of Honor last week announced that for the first time since stopping events in March due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they are returning to producing television in Maryland this month. They said, quote, ROH will adhere to a very stringent protocol as well as the regulations set in place by the Maryland State Athletic Commission, end quote. The promotion announcement also said ROH will be instituting the necessary testing and safety measures in a continued effort to prevent the spread of COVID-19. There will be no fans or staff who are not essential to the production present during these events, end quote. So a bit like with WWE and a bit like with AEW and some independent events, Ring of Honor are starting up television production once again. It's the next step, isn't it, in pro wrestling returning during this pandemic. It has been reported that the tapings will focus on the Ring of Honor Pure Title Tournament. 10 of the 16 entrants for this tournament have been announced. They are Jay Lethal, Jonathan Grisham, Matt Sydal, David Finlay, Tracy Williams, Josh Woods, Wheeler Utah, Tony Deppen, PJ Black, and Rocky Romero. So it would suggest that EC3's deal that he currently has with Impact Wrestling is not exclusive to Impact Wrestling. That's what this would suggest, whether that's by clauses to specific companies that he can go to, or whereby it's just a clause of, look, you're booked for these dates of Impact Wrestling, but you can also go somewhere else. Now, it looks like, at least for now, he will work for both Impact and Ring of Honor. There's no word as of yet if there's been interest from All Elite Wrestling. Of course, they do have the current TNT Championship Open Challenge segments that are airing, so there is a chance that EC3 could potentially challenge in one of those TNT Open Challenge segments too. According to the report from PW Insider, EC3 will make his first appearance on the Ring of Honor programming when this content airs. WrestleZone, as I mentioned, was also able to confirm that report and confirm EC3's involvement at the Ring of Honor tapings in Baltimore. When asked directly for confirmation, EC3 only said to WrestleZone, quote, "There is more than one narrative to control," end quote. So he's essentially confirming that he was in Baltimore and will be part of these Ring of Honor tapings. As I mentioned, he publicly stated that he is not currently under contract with Impact Wrestling, which leaves him open to appear wherever he chooses. I think that's a work. Obviously, he does have some form of a deal with Impact Wrestling right now. Some people might say, well, maybe it's a handshake deal. I just think it's a very simple deal whereby, look, there's a contract that's probably been signed with Impact Wrestling, but there are certain clauses and deals that are in there, likely, that he can work with Ring of Honor. Usually these clauses suggest that he can work with specific companies. They have to be named in there. So one might be Ring of Honor, another one might be New Japan, and again, AEW. I don't know what the relationship is between Impact Wrestling and AEW. EC3 potentially could have gone to Impact Wrestling and said, look, I've made this deal with Ring of Honor. They're allowing me to work with you. We don't know which way this deal goes, put it this way. So I don't think it's as simple as, oh, I signed with Impact first. They said I can work anywhere. Maybe you signed with Ring of Honor first, and they said you can work anywhere. So there's a lot that we don't know. The thing that we do know, and it is confirmed, is that EC3 will be making his Ring of Honor debut at the television tapings this week. Now, also to touch on the stringent protocol and safety regulations that have been set in place by the Maryland State Athletic Commission for Ring of Honor's return to TV. Ring of Honor, as I mentioned, will be instituting the necessary testing and safety measures in a continued effort to prevent the spread of COVID-19. It was said by Ring of Honor's Chief Operating Officer, Joe Koff, quote, "Taking care of our people during this difficult time has been and still is our number one priority. That's why we have spent many weeks working alongside the Maryland State Commission in gearing towards our return to producing wrestling action. The strictest of protocols, testing, and measures will be in place to assure us of this directive," end quote. So it looks like Ring of Honor, and I do have to credit Ring of Honor for their work when it comes to the whole COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, we saw some companies, WWE, whereby at the start of this pandemic, they didn't take it seriously. Their testing was an absolute farce. It was asking people if they were okay. It wasn't wearing masks. And then you had people like Ring of Honor, in fairness and credit to them, said, you know what, we're going to postpone our tapings. If we can't do it safe, then we're not going to do it at all. They've waited it out this long. They've got proper testing procedures in place. They've got social distancing measures. They've worked with the Maryland State Athletic Commission to put on a show and television tapings in the safest way possible to the talent, to the staff, to everyone involved in Ring of Honor, and you have to credit them for that. So big credit to Ring of Honor for doing that, taking the time and doing things properly and safely. Now, in terms of EC3 to AEW, as I mentioned earlier, Is it a possibility? It's more of a possibility than I thought it was. I initially thought, okay, EC3 is with Impact, given that so little promotions are running television tapings or events, especially indie promotions. I thought if EC3 would probably just be signed to Impact and he would do that. The fact that he is now making his debut with Ring of Honor and he's got some form of a deal with Ring of Honor suggests that there is a bit of wiggle room in his contract, either with Ring of Honor or Impact Wrestling. Will he go to AEW? It's a very, very difficult one. If he does, then I think it's a bit of a landmark deal, because the likes of Scott D'Amore, the executive vice president or one of the executive vice presidents of Impact Wrestling, and the North and FTR have been very vocal about wanting to work together. Of course, FTR are currently signed with AEW, but they've been teasing that they want to have a match with the North, who is still under contract with Impact. Obviously, Ethan Page is under contract to the end of the year. Josh Alexander is under contract till 2022. If EC3 can go to AEW, then maybe there's a bit of wiggle room that the FTR could come in and face the North in Impact Wrestling. This EC3 deal is actually really big, because it sort of shows the lay of the land in terms of all of these companies about how willing they will be at the moment to let their stars work for other companies. We've seen the likes of Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, and potentially more. I won't. There's a bit of a spoiler there. We'll wait till Saturday for that one. Coming and potentially work with AEW. So it looks like the exclusivity of working with just one promotion is very, very fluid at the moment, and that's very interesting. Another thing to consider as well is, like I said, this past week on Impact Emergence, he stole, even though it's the self-appointed champion Moose, but he stole the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. I think they're taping, between 6 and 8 weeks of television at these Ring of Honor tapings this week. So will EC3 show up with the TNA World Heavyweight Championship? Will he just be a completely separate character in Ring of Honor that has nothing to do with his Impact character? We saw that with the likes of MJF. When MJF started out with AEW, he was still under contract with MLW. And he obviously played the same sort of MJF, Maxwell, Jacob Friedman character in MLW, but his roles and his storylines were pretty separate. They didn't have any crossover, really. So, is EC3 going to be bringing the TNA World Heavyweight Championship and his TNA storylines with him to Ring of Honor? Could we see Moose make his debut there as well? Or is it just going to be completely separate, EC3 doing his own thing? It's Ring of Honor EC3 and then Impact Wrestling EC3. We'll have to wait and see on that. I still don't lend any credence to the argument that some people have suggested that, this just shows he is actually a free agent and he's not signed to Impact Wrestling. I don't believe that. I believe that he probably has a short-term deal or a very special kind of deal with Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor, for what that's worth. He spoke about not wanting to be tied down for a long time to one particular company. He's promoting himself as a free agent, and maybe in his mind with these short-term, non-exclusive deals, he still technically is a free agent, so he's not technically lying when it comes to that one. But it shows that he can do what he wants. Like, he's a big star, he's a big name, he wasn't used properly, he's a name that when he was released by WWE, people were happy to see him go, just for the main reason of, okay, we can see this guy be used properly, we can see this guy be used to the best of his talents, the best of his abilities. He can be a big star, he can be a Ring of Honor World Champion, he's a former TNA World Heavyweight Champion twice, so he can easily be a Ring of Honor Champion if he's booked correctly in Ring of Honor. He can be a big star. He is in demand. If this was normal times without the pandemic, that he'd be in so many big independent shows and going to go up against some big names on the independent scene. So he's still in demand. He's still a big name. He's doing a bit of the Cody Rhodes in 2016, right? When Cody Rhodes was released or asked for his release from WWE in 2016, he basically did the rounds. He went to every single company. He went to TNA, did Bound for Glory, he was at Ring of Honor, he did Final Battle, he went to New Japan, did Wrestle Kingdom. I believe he is the only wrestler in professional wrestling history to essentially do the big shows all in 12 months, right? He was at WrestleMania for WrestleMania 32. He was at Bound for Glory later on that year. He was at Final Battle with Ring of Honor that year, and he was also at the following year's Wrestle Kingdom for New Japan. And I don't think any wrestler has done that previously or since in that period of time. Now, I don't think EC3 is going to do the same because times are different, circumstances are different, travel's different. quarantine, pandemic, etc. But he essentially looks like EC3 is doing the Cody Rhodes from 2016. He's not signing anything long term. He's going to every company. He's seeing how he feels. He's getting his name out there. And it's absolutely fascinating to see how this will play out. I for sure will be watching his Ring of Honor debut closely. I think it's a really interesting time. And as I mentioned earlier, absolutely this could be a landmark deal in terms of talent sharing between the likes of Impact and Ring of Honor going forward. So we'll have to wait and see on this one. But a very interesting story and something that I'm sure will develop closely over the next couple of days. But what are your thoughts? Of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on EC3 potentially making his debut of Ring of Honor at the upcoming Ring of Honor tapings this week? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. I really enjoy interacting with you guys on this channel. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. It really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds on YouTube. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365. We're closing in on 700 subscribers on that long road to 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you have to subscribe, just know that I really do appreciate it. You can also follow us on all of our social media platforms. The handles are on the screen right now. The links are in the description box below. It's at 365 Wrestle on Twitter and at WrestleNews 365 on Facebook and Instagram. So be sure to give us a like or a follow there if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.